You're listening to the Real Estate Proverbs Podcast with host Kevin Jefferson. This is the number one podcast for African American real estate professionals who are doing extraordinary things. It's time to tune in. And now, your host, the People's Lender, Kevin Jefferson.
Welcome to Real Estate Proverbs Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson, and today we have a special guest by the name of Mr. Glen Glasper. How you doing, Glen?
Great, sir. Great. Thank you so much for having me. I know it's been a long time coming, but I certainly am grateful for the opportunity to be on with you.
No, man, I appreciate you carving out some time to hop on and share your knowledge with us, brother. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Simple situation. Glen Glasper. I'm a window washer. No, I'm just kidding. Glen Glasper, affectionately known as Mr. Dolla out of a dime, real estate investor, real estate coach. I've been investing in real estate 22 years, going on 23 years now. And I say that in the most humblest way that I possibly can, because I've just been doing this long enough to figure out the ways not to do it. And that's what I help, many of my students with, is showing them the best ways, not always the right way. Who knows sometimes what the right way is sometimes, but the best ways to get into the business and be successful in the business and avoid many of the obstacles and hurdles that I've had to overcome.
Gotcha. Cool. So, take us back. Where are you originally from?
Originally from Detroit, Michigan. Cold streets of Detroit, Michigan.
Motor City, huh?
Yes, indeed. When you talk about getting it out the mud, I got it out the mud for real.
We're gonna get into that too, man.
Right.
So when you moved in Detroit, when did you start real estate?
I started real estate in 1998. Well, actually, I was told I could take credit for the time, but I don't. I started studying real estate in about 96, 97. That's when I bought the Carlton Sheets course and started learning everything I could about doing the business. I bought my first property in 98, though.
Do you still have the Carlton Sheets course?
As a matter of fact, I do. I
On cassette?
still have it. I still
On
have
cassette?
the cassettes. I still have the cassettes and all of that. As a matter of fact, if I looked a little bit deeper, I might still have the VHS tapes that he had.
Wow. On the episode coming out this Friday, the guy, that's how he got started. Carlton Sheets. Sheets, man. I remember that infomercial running all night long on any channel. At the time, it wasn't as many channels, but he pushed a lot of commercials, man.
Yes, indeed, he did. That's what got me 3:00 in the morning one night, sleeping on my homeboy's couch. Like, wait a minute, did he say I could be rich too?
Good old Carlton Sheets.
Yes,
wow.
Indeed.
So prior to I guess 96, well, in 1996, when you were studying Carlton Sheets, what were you doing at the time?
Man, wow. Just sleeping from pillar to post is the old saying that my mom used to say, sleeping from pillar to post. But I was homeless. I was working. I had a job. I think, as a matter of fact, I was just I was about 23, in the process of possibly getting laid off from my job, or let go from my job, we'll call it that. But I was working, and then I started going to school for computers and electronics. So I started a career at that time in fixing computers, working for Ford Motor headquarters in Dearborn, Michigan.
Wow. So how long did you have that position?
I only worked there for about a year and a half. Excuse me. If you know anything about people that come from Detroit or Chicago or anywhere in that Midwest area, we'll call it the industrial belt, or the area where people are known to work in factories. they're told, or at least I was made to believe, if you get a job at Ford Motor Company, GM, or Chrysler, you have arrived. But that wasn't my story. I happened to get a job at the headquarters, the Ford Motor headquarters. Ford Motor Company and Ford Motor Credit headquarters are right next to each other. And I was an IT person. I worked on the computers. I worked alongside some of the people whose last name were Ford. Unfortunately, though, for me, I was a salaried employee, and I wasn't a line worker or worked in the plant where you can get all the overtime you want and get really paid. But my money was the same no matter if I worked 80 hours or 40 hours. I still got the same check every 2 weeks, and it wasn't enough.
Wow. So
I had to get away from there.
Got away. So when did you leave?
I left in 2000. In 2000, and when I left there is when I moved here to Atlanta.
Gotcha. So at any point were you practicing real estate while you were at Ford?
Not well, you know what? Yes. I had actually no, I wasn't. I didn't know anything about it. It wasn't until after I left Ford when I got, when I bought my first house.
Gotcha. Cool. So what got you into real estate? Like, I know you started studying in 96, but what got you interested into it?
I always had this idea. I had this idea of the difference between renting and owning. Growing up in my family, very few people own a home in my family. We actually owned our home. My father, bought a few houses, but I didn't really grasp the concept of home ownership. I only had to grasp the concept of having a place to stay. And I got the idea from a friend of mine who, during my homeless trek, told me that I should buy a house. And I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean? How could I buy a house? I'm homeless. I had a job and I didn't know that I had decent credit because I, really only use it to buy a car. And, she said, you should buy a house instead of sleeping in your car. And I was like, okay, and she gave me some ideas. A friend of hers was actually a real estate investor. And I got qualified to buy this house. However, in the midst of getting ready to close on the house, the guy who I was buying the house from said to me he would pay me not to buy the house. He was a new investor, and he realized that another investor came along, and he realized that he can make more money selling to someone else rather than selling to me. So he paid me $5,000 not to buy the house. And I was like, wow, I made that money by accident. A couple of years went by, and it dawned on me again. Imagine if I did this on purpose, and the Carlton Sheets commercial came on, and that's where it all began.
Wow. That's crazy. He paid you $5,000 not to buy it. So the other guy must have offered him quite a bit more money.
You know what? I never got the full scope of that, but I know I think he made about $20,000 more selling it to the other guy. And it was a property that he was buying to hold. But I don't know what the other guy ended up doing with the house, but he made about $20,000 more selling it to the other guy because the guy paid him. He gave him the money to give to me so that I could walk away.
Wow.
How much? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, how much was the house?
That was $5,000. He gave me $5,000.
No, how much was the house itself?
Oh man, this was actually in Detroit. I think it was on the southwest side of Detroit. I was buying this house. I think the house was probably about $30,000 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
When's the last time you've been to Detroit?
The last time I've been to Detroit was about 2 weeks ago, about a week ago, about a week and a half ago.
You ever ride by the house?
No. I've never seen that house again. It's crazy.
Right.
Now you're gonna maybe go look for the house now
and see what's there.
Yeah.
That's what's up. So you, I guess I want to dig into it. How'd you become homeless?
Well, interesting story. Now, I've been out of the house since I was 12 years old. I had one of those kind of moms who, many of the moms in my day told their parents, if you can't live under my rules, you can't live under my roof. And she told me that at 12. I guess not thinking that I would take advantage of the opportunity to get out of there. So at 12 years old, I left. And it was just that experience that, had me living for a few different places, first living on the street, for a few different park benches and cars and different things like that. But I had gotten to, I guess, the idea now of this independence. And if there was any place I went that there were rules, I didn't want to be under so many rules, right? I now had this flexibility, mom and dad's not telling me what to do. I can do whatever I want to do, even 12, 13, 14 years old. So when I got to a point of there being something that I had to do that I didn't want to do, I was on to the next place. But eventually, I was at a point where I was able to earn my own money. I started a lawn service when I was 12. Then did several other odd jobs, worked with my uncle doing construction. And it just, after time went on, it didn't dawn on me I guess at the time, and, of course, I grew up in Detroit. I was kind of infinitely ignorant a little bit. And it didn't dawn on me that so much time had passed by and I didn't have a steady place to stay. So at the age of, I think, 19, I got in my own apartment, gotten stable. And then time passed by that, I was like, okay, my lease was up, got another job. It was weird. I was doing good, always kept a job. I always had some financial stability coming. But it's just, I got to a point where the last apartment that I had, the lease had ran out. And I was like, do I want to pay this money, or I can go stay on somebody's couch and keep my money? So that's kind of what the situation was. Quite a few times I had decent jobs. I just didn't, I want to keep more of my money.
How is that? How you got your name, Mr. Dolla out of a dime?
It's interesting you asked that question. I probably should have got that name around that time, but no, that didn't happen until later.
Wow.
Yeah. But the last job I had before I went to work at Ford, I was catering airplanes at the airport in Detroit. I got fired from that job. And, there was a stretch of time, from that time until I got the other job is when I was homeless as well. And that's when it was that stretch of time when I started learning about investing in real estate.
Wow. So what was other than, I guess, when they offered you $5,000 to not buy the house, was that for you to become a homeowner, or was it for investment?
The house that I was going to buy, I had no knowledge of investing. So at that time, I was going to become a homeowner to stop living in my car. But when that offer was made, I'm like, wait a minute, I can get $5,000. You got to think about, I had never had $5,000 all at one time.
Right.
Right. And then when that offer was made, okay, yes, I'm homeless, but $5,000, okay, I can find someplace else to stay. Right. Maybe I can go rent another place or do some other things. At least that's the idea I should have had. When I got that $5,000, man, I went and put some new rims on my car, got a new sound system in the car, and tinted the windows. The car was looking real nice. So it was a nice place to sleep.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I still didn't go get a place of my own to stay in. Then I was like, man, I have to look back on that now and think about how crazy I was.
So at what point did you take action in what you were learning from the Carlton Sheets series?
Well, I have to say, and these are very good questions. I mean, I should have been on your show a long time ago. Because and I say that because these questions are actually going to be part of the book that I'm writing.
Okay.
God bless the child that has his own. It's coming out 2020 something. Little shameless plug. No, but I started taking action. I guess I was reading this book and reading this course, and it was over about a year. I read this course, about a year and a half, and after studying it for so long and making it a part of who I was, it was just like something. I had that burning desire that said, listen, dude, what's the worst can happen? Right? I thought to myself, what's the worst can happen? You don't have anything, so you can't lose anything. So in that course, it taught about building your power team. And your power team being insurance agents, mortgage lenders, real estate agents, closing attorneys or real estate attorneys, closing agents, and all that. And going through that process, I said, okay, let me just go and meet some people and hear what they have to say. So I finally met with a real estate attorney, and he was impressed. He was very impressed by the things I was able to spout out to him from what I studied in this course. I actually took the course with me to meet him. And he said, Mr. Glasper, it looks like you've been doing your homework. He said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to take you on as a client. I said, really? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know how I'm going to pay you. But what he did for me was actually the thing that changed my life. In having the ability to be able to buy a house. He told me, he said, if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. And he said, I'm only going to charge you, I think, $200 for the closing. And I'm a low kid from Detroit going to speak to an attorney. I guess let me make it this way. When you have a minimalistic mentality, you think certain people are. I thought at that time, speaking to an attorney, I had somewhat arrived, right? So that gave me the confidence then to go and really spend time. I had spoken to closing agents and insurance agents, but I met a real estate agent who kind of did the same thing for me. He said, okay, I'm going to take you around and have you look at some houses. Now keep in mind, I didn't have a job. I had no income. I don't know what my credit was at this time. So none of those things were a factor for me. I was still in the process of looking for another person to invest in this property that I was eventually going to buy. Right. So I was still learning that process, all while taking advantage of the offer that the attorney made me, as well as taking, the time of the real estate agent. He took me around looking at all these houses before I was even qualified or anything. And that built my confidence. Like, these people are actually spending time with me. I mean, like, me, who am I? Right. And finally found a house. The guy said, okay, this is perfect. We'll put it under contract and it will work for you. And I'm like, okay. We put it under contract. I'm like, how am I gonna pay for it now?
Where were you? Like, were you in Michigan or were you in Georgia?
No, this was still in Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is where I bought my first house in Michigan. And I found somebody that'll do the apply for the financing for me, and bought the house and still didn't have a place to stay. Interestingly enough, when I bought the house, there was a tenant living in the house. So I had to wait 2 months before I could move in. And, all of the things, I went to the closing, the real estate attorney came with me. I had borrowed several hundreds of dollars from different people. So I had like $2,000 to go to closing. After he checked off all of the boxes of things that I would not have had any idea about, I only had to pay $84 to close.
Wow.
Right. Because, all the closing costs, I didn't have to pay any of that. There were water bills that were outstanding. The person who owned the house had to pay those. The deposit for the guy that was renting, that was given to me. The next 2 months rent was given to me in advance. So there were several different things that I got credit for that I didn't have to pay when I closed. And so needless to say, I was able to keep the money that I brought to closing. I stayed in a hotel, I think, or a motel for about 3 or 4 days. And well, no, actually, no, it was about maybe about a week and a half, 2 weeks. And after that, I had to still start sleeping around again, and until I was able to move in. But during that process, I had some friends that told me, "Hey, I heard you were buying a house. We need a place to stay." So several of them, about 4 of them, needed a place to stay, and it was a 5-bedroom house. So I rented out 4 of the bedrooms, and I stayed in one. So my mortgage was $289, and that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. $289, and each of them paid me $250 a month to live in that house with me. So I was making $1,000 a month and only had $289 to pay, because they paid the electricity, the water, the lights, the gas, everything. And I was just like, wow, I was blown away at what I was able to accomplish just by, like you said, taking the action that I did.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So I guess first, do you still have that house?
No. When I moved to Atlanta, so I lived in that house, I think, for about a year. And then I moved in with a girlfriend, and I rented it for, I think, about 6 or 7 months. My cousin moved in, him and his wife, and they rented it for a few months for that time, because everybody, all the people that I was renting to, they had moved out. And so my cousin moved in, him and his wife moved in, and I was hardly there. So I told them, you guys can take the place. And when they left, I went back. I'm thinking about all of this. And then I had the idea to move to Atlanta. And I came to visit Atlanta, and I was like, you know what? I'm moving. I'm coming back next month. And I found a young lady that lived in the neighborhood that I grew up in, needed a place to stay. And so I rented a house to her when I moved to Atlanta. So I still had a little bit of money coming from the house for about 6 months. And my cousin stopped going to collect the rent. So he would collect the rent and send me the money, and he stopped going to collect the rent. So the girl didn't know where to send the money. And so, needless to say, I was losing that house. Interestingly enough, one day I went back to Michigan, and I got a letter in the mail that was there that said, "We're interested in buying your house." So someone sent me a direct mail piece, and I said, "Okay." I called them up. So when I called them right before that house was going into foreclosure, I sold that house, and I walked away with a whopping $48.
But you didn't lose it.
I didn't lose.
Didn't lose it.
So I had to put down $84, and when I sold, I walked away with $48.
Wow. So tell me how your second deal went. Like, when did you get your second deal? When did you say, you know what, chalk that up as a lesson, I want to continue with this real estate investing thing?
So that's when I moved to Atlanta. I've been living here for about 2 years, and I was laid off from my job, and this was in 2002. Laid off from my job. So I had actually been still learning real estate. Tried a couple deals, they didn't work out. And then when I got laid off from my job, I said, you know what, I'm going to go and do this full time. So a year after I was laid off from my job, I bought a house. And when I bought that house, when I closed, I made the exact salary at closing. I got a check for the exact salary at closing that I was making from the job that I was laid off a year prior.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was my second deal. And, you know, I was making more money I'd ever made in my life at the job. So I thought it was, you know, I thought I had arrived again. But when I got the check from the closing, you know, I was truly realizing how awesome God is. And it was an amazing blessing for me to be able to experience that. All by taking action.
So how did you find that house?
I was searching on the MLS. A friend of mine had given me access to the MLS, and I studied it day and night. Again, it was one of those situations where when I got laid off from that job, I had made up in my mind that I was never going to get another job again. And now I was surviving for a year on unemployment. I'm talking about surviving. But by the grace of God, I made it through. And when I closed, you know, that's where I made that money. But I mean, I was searching, you know, like I said, I had several failed deals over that time, several deals that failed. And it was just that one that stuck, that I negotiated it well, and the sellers were on board. I think they were moving into another house, and they were paying 2 mortgages. So it was kind of the perfect situation for me to be able to take the house over.
So at what point did you start marketing? Like, so have all your deals, or are all your deals currently coming off the MLS? Like, at what point did it change?
Well, at that time, I'll be honest, I didn't know, or I didn't try a lot of the different marketing tactics that we know of now, like bandit signs. I never did that. I got business cards, and I went to several meetings and things like that, and I learned about all the different marketing things, but I didn't have the money to be able to do those things. It was, you know, word of mouth and searching on the MLS is where I found a lot of the deals that I found. Like, and I was connected with people who would send me several deals. And some, you know, a lot of them were off market because, you know, they knew that this is what I was doing. And, you know, it was word of mouth and networking is what got me into a lot of the doors that I was able to get into to do the deals. But this one particular deal came from the MLS, and I found it, you know, searching.
Got you. So at what point did you decide that you wanted to scale? Like, doing one deal at a time wasn't enough?
Mm-hmm. Great question. You know, I was thinking that the best thing that I did was learn as much as I could in the beginning. And I had several different people that I considered to be mentors. Well, I didn't consider them to be mentors at the time, because at the time I'm thinking a mentor is going to cost me a lot of money that I didn't want to spend. So with that mentality, I made a ton of mistakes. But the scaling part came when I realized that it was possible for me to do a lot of deals with no money. And I didn't have any money, and my credit at the time was terrible. And, you know, I realized it was possible. And there was a gentleman that said, he said, if you can fog up this mirror, I'll give you money to buy a house. And I fogged up that mirror as many times as I possibly could. So, you know, that's when my, I guess, fixing and flipping started back in about 2004. Maybe fixing a broken window or something like that. So I fixed.
Hey, hold on, Glenn.
And the funding was there. The houses were there. Pretty much like how things are now. I was able to accomplish quite a bit in those times.
Got
Of
you.
course, I had to start all over and rescale again, but it was great back then.
So I take it the starting all over was after 2008.
Yes. And primarily because now my biggest issue is, I don't have the horror story that everyone else does. Everybody says that, we lost everything, all of our houses got foreclosed on. And I guess in a way it was good and not so good for me because I didn't have that experience. It was good that I didn't have to experience that, of course, because what I did, I started in, I think, 2006. I started selling all the properties that I bought. So I bought, I was holding about 18 properties at one time. And, I think only maybe 4 or 5 of them were rented. Just by happenstance. Like, I was buying these properties because, again, as I mentioned, the guy said if you can fog up the mirror. So I was like, you know what? Let me go fog this mirror up 10 more times. And I just kept buying and buying and buying. And my overhead on a monthly basis was, $30,000 plus. So I literally had to continue to buy in many cases to make money to be able to cover my overhead. So I started selling off properties, and as I sold them, I didn't buy many more. I just continued to sell. I did a few, wholesale deals, what we call a contract for deed kind of things, or actually they weren't really. We called it so just selling the contract. It was something else we called it. Something we called it differently. We didn't call it wholesaling. But I did a few of those deals in the midst of me selling everything off. And February 2008, I sold my last property. So I guess I made it out by the skin of my teeth, and I did very well when I sold that property. And I just didn't. My issue was I didn't lose anything, but I didn't gain anything because I didn't continue to invest.
Wow.
Because I felt I didn't have enough knowledge or experience at that time, even though it had been 10 years that I've been in the business. I just didn't realize that I should have continued to buy properties. I did like everybody else did. I ran, and I said, okay, nobody else is doing it, so the smart thing is to not do it if nobody else is doing it. And while I had a ton of cash, I didn't have anything to continue to replenish that cash. And, so I was what they would call cash rich, but asset poor. And, of course, as you know, with cash, if you don't use it properly and then continue to invest it, by a year and a half later, probably close to 2 years later, so 2008 to maybe the end of 2009, I was down to my last $5,000. And it was, and I'll say this humbly, to only have $5,000 in the bank for me during that time was very bad. I'll say it was very bad, because like I had bills and different things like that I had to take care of, and that $5,000 depleted. It was depleted very quickly. So, that's what it was like.
So I think I mean, what made you start selling them off?
If I had to be honest, in one word, I would say greed. A little bit of healthy greed, I'd say. Well, at the time, because I realized that they were sitting. So I had one crew, my uncle, and he had several people working with him. So a lot of my cousins, like they'd all moved from Detroit to come down and work with me. And they started fixing up these properties. You know, I buy another one. I'm telling them, stop fixing that one and go fix the other one because I just bought a new one, and that one will get rented or it'll sell quicker than that one. So, you know, they were all over town fixing houses all over the place. So after realizing that many of these houses were empty and I had mortgages on them that I had to cover, I said, you know what? I guess it just came to me like, dude, you have houses that you're paying for that nobody's in. Why don't you sell them? I said, okay, I'll sell them. So I started selling them, and you know, I think I sold 2 in 2006. I sold a bulk of them in 2007, and my last property I sold in 2008. And you know, it was just it wasn't a strategic. I'll be honest, it wasn't anything strategic about it at all. Like some people will say, you were smart to sell everything before the market crashed. No, I wasn't. I had no idea. I was one of the ones that did not believe this bubble thing was real.
Right.
Everybody was saying the bubble, the bubble, the bubble. I wasn't smart enough then in the business to know anything about a bubble. I had never experienced that before. So I was like, whatever. You know, so I just sold them. And fortunately, I took that route, you know, because like I said, it wasn't strategic. It was because I didn't want to continue to pay for them. And I figured I could get a lot more money in the bank if I sold them. And that's what I did.
Wow. So 2008, prior to 2008, you sold all of your properties off.
Yes.
And you say you missed the window of picking up properties from 2008 to 2009 when they were probably pennies on the dollar.
Pennies on the dollar, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being in Delaware, and actually one of my investors was like, man, you can pick up houses in Atlanta, like new construction houses for like 50 grand.
Right.
And I was like, what? But at the same time, I'm in the same market, so I'm like, I don't have 50 grand to buy no, you know what I mean? I can buy a house. So 50 grand was a lot of money. It's like, I don't know what this market's gonna do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to invest. So at what point did you start investing again, like buying again?
Good question. Now I will say this: picture having well over $250,000 in the bank, and you're hearing that houses in Detroit are selling for $500 and not taking advantage of that. I'm like, nobody's buying. I'm not buying. I'm like, how that? I mean, I'm thinking like, you know, now I think back on it like they're $500, dude. How bad could you go wrong if you bought 10 of them? You know, I didn't think that. I was ignorant. But anyway, I started back investing again in, I want to say 2012 or 2013, when I started actively purchasing again. And it was a friend of mine who urged me. He said, why don't you, you know, first of all, you know, that I was being told you should teach real estate, you know all about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't want to teach it. You know, I just didn't think at that time that my experience was enough to be able to teach it. Because, and I'll say this, because although I did very well, I felt like I didn't know enough. I did extremely well, but I felt like I didn't know enough. And I guess it's like when you don't know your value or you don't know your worth, you don't take advantage of the opportunities to share with anyone else. And I knew all the things not to do and didn't realize that that's enough enough knowledge to be able to teach people.
Right.
So a friend of mine, he said, you know, why don't we just go into business and start buying houses again? And I said, okay. You know, we got some loans and bought a few houses and fixed them up, we were in the process of fixing them up, and he wanted to take over. So, you know, quickly that partnership subsided, and I continued to go on, you know, and just continue to, you know, flip houses, fix them up and flip them, and got back into the mode of what I was doing before. And you know, it's funny thing. I say that I got into the mode of doing what I was doing before because that's what I was doing before, fixing and flipping. I said, wait a minute. Now you did the same thing before the market crashed. You bought and you sold everything and you had no income producing properties to sustain you through that crash. So about a year or so ago, I said, wait a minute, now you need to, actually about 2 years ago, you need to get out of that mentality and start holding everything you buy, which is, you know, currently what I'm doing now. But yeah, I got back in about 2012, and it was just on, you know, someone urging me to get back into it because I was doing some other stuff. I was doing network marketing and had begun to get on a good run with that. But I will say that I didn't do as well as I'd like to in network marketing, but I did do well. But the knowledge of how to run a business and have strategies and systems and things in place is what helped me get to a better point in my real estate investing business. And
that right there, like for whatever you invested, the $500 or $600 that we invest helps.
Yeah,
it helps. Like people don't understand. Like when you hear network marketing, you hear most people consider it a scam. But the personal development that you learn to do and the systems that you learn from it is worth the investment. Even if you don't make $1 from the business and you got a room full of supplies, it's well worth it.
And here's the other great thing, man, that people miss. Like many of these network marketing companies now, they you know, they don't have supplies. You don't have to stock anything.
Right.
And you know, the great thing for me was being around people who were people like I wanted to be like, right? And many of these people, I'm talking multimillionaires that I had the ability to spend time with for $250. Like we paid mentors and coaches tens of thousands of dollars. I got to hang out with multimillionaires and sit at their feet and learn for all for $250. I didn't care if I made money then, right? It was what I was learning. Now, okay, I won't say I didn't care. That's a bit extreme, you know, because I was married at the time, so I had to make money.
Right.
Well, I got married. I'm still married. Let me make sure I say that. I said I was married at the time. I'm still
in case
married.
She's listening, he's still married.
Exactly. I was still married, but I had just gotten married at the time. Let me say that. So I had to make money, but it was the type of people and their mindsets that helped me develop into a much, much wiser person, not just as a person, but not just as a business person, but as a person as well. Like I've always been somewhat of a reader, but I began to study what I was reading, and it's become a part of me. So I'm an avid reader now. And I was just like, man, if I had missed the opportunity to become a part of this network marketing opportunity, I probably would have never gotten as well in business as I am now. Because even though I made a lot of money, I didn't have what I felt like with a lot of knowledge, right? I had experience, but the knowledge, and I guess knowledge and experience, some people think they're intertwined, but not necessarily.
I think they're two different things.
Right. I had a lot of experience, but I just, like even the idea about the opportunities of investing in buying houses for $500. I thought that was something I shouldn't do because everybody else wasn't investing. But had I known a little more about business after being a part of the network marketing business, I'd have done that in a heartbeat. I'd have spent all my money on those $500 houses. And I would have been without a dime, but I would have had hundreds of houses that I could have, gotten back my investment on. But I didn't think about that at the time.
Man, you're gonna make me want to go to a conference somewhere.
Listen, I gotta get one. Listen, I gotta get back in one myself, bro. Listen, I gotta get back in one myself. Now let me keep it 100. I am still currently involved in a few. Well, maybe I shouldn't say this because some of them might see this. I'm involved in a few different opportunities now.
Right.
Do I make money? A little bit of money. I get residual checks from them, but I don't push it enough to make the type of money that I could potentially make. But I do pay attention. I listen to them. I listen to the mentors. I do listen to them in the business that they have to present. Now, and some of them are in real estate. But, I'm primarily in real estate, and those businesses are things that are relative to my real estate business. So that's why I stay connected to understand what goes on in that business, but also to be connected to the people. The people are what make me a better person, so that's why. Right. And I pay that $250 10 times over again. I say to people, get over what you think about network marketing, because the value, people get cost and value twisted so many times. They look at $250 as too much to lose. If you're worried about losing $250, you had a bigger problem.
Bigger problem.
Especially in 2021. If you're worried about losing $250, you got a bigger problem than $250. But the value of what you gain, that $250 can make you a multi-millionaire, have a multi-million-dollar mindset, and $250 wouldn't matter to you again.
Right. So
we're still talking about real estate, right?
Yeah, it's all intertwined. It's all intertwined. Like, one of my good friends I met through network marketing. He ended up being my upline, and I turned him on to real estate.
Wow.
And now he's flipping 10 houses a year while working his 9 to 5. So like, you're right. It's the relationship part. It's the networking piece. It's just like-minded people is the best thing, that you, like you said, that you get out of it. Yes. Matter of fact, man, be transparent. Because of me meeting him through network marketing, that's how I met my wife, recruiting.
Wow.
Like legitimately looking to recruit. And I came across her 17 years later. Here we are.
So you're the ultimate network marketer.
So, man, listen.
You got a lifetime recruit.
This is my platform, so we can talk. She was trying to recruit me into her company, and I was trying to recruit her. And that's how we connected, man. Wow. So you just never know. Like I told my buddy, I interviewed him on one of the episodes of the podcast, and he thanked me. And then I was like, nah, thank you. Because that's how I found my wife. Right. You know what I mean? I found my wife. She's my business partner. So like, that's what you get out of it, man. Like a lot of us, if you talk to a lot of people in the real estate space or even in entrepreneurship, at some point, network marketing had something to do with something. Definitely. Whether it was their mindset, their professional development, or even their business that they maintain now that allowed for them to get into real estate.
True story.
So, I mean, yeah, this is a real estate podcast, but we also unscripted. So, right. Because it could be somebody listening that's in network marketing. Like, how do I transition to real estate? Like, it's two different things. Well, you've heard two sides of the story of how it's been able to help both of us. Because I was in network marketing. You were in it. You're still doing some things, and, they've got opportunities out that make me be like, oh, shoot, let me go. Oh, just constantly looking at what's going on, but you got to stay focused.
Absolutely.
You got to stay focused in it, man. So, okay, cool. We've been homeless. We moved to Georgia. We got into real estate, got into network marketing. We started scaling. And now we sold our properties. and now we're starting to pick properties back up.
Mhm.
Right now, you currently have a course, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
What gave you the mindset shift that you had enough value to add to people?
Well, you know, because of how I was able to continue, like I'd never really had a mentor, so to speak, in the beginning. If I credit anyone, one or two people for being mentors for me was that real estate attorney and a friend of mine who I connected with here in Georgia. They were the ones that continued to encourage me. Like he encouraged me, and I kept in contact with him for a few years after. And then I met someone who here in Georgia who continued to encourage me. Um, but what I realized is that in all of that, I had people to push me. Like even people that I connect with now push me in some way or another, right? Um, and I said to myself that that's what a lot of people, I believe, who either want to get into business or people who want to continue in the business, they need somebody to push them, right? And they need to have somebody to, that they will permit to push them, right? And that's what I decided, you know what, I want to help people. I want to show them that if I can do this, like, such a cliche in many cases, but I want to show people that if I can do it, and if you put in the work, you can do it as well. That's the main thing. You got to put the work in. So I wanted to be able to show people that it's possible for them. So I started helping people years ago. I started helping people get, into the business and learning how to do it years ago. Um, and, I started my podcast. I started hosting events and things like that. And many people that are doing well today, I don't know whether they'll admit it or not, it was a result of either the podcast or the events that I hosted. And I saw that value that I was sharing became something that people could use for a lifetime. And I was having a conversation with a gentleman um, who I told what I was doing as far as teaching people. And he asked me a question. He said, how much do you charge them? And at the time, I told him I was only charging $500. He was like, wait a minute, these people that you're helping, they're able to make millions and millions of dollars with what you teach them. I said, yeah. He said, you only charging $500 for that? He said, you should be charging more than that. And I didn't get it. I'll be honest, I didn't get it, because I want to help people. This is me. I want to help people. But what I realized, what he helped me understand is that many of the people that don't invest in the knowledge and education that they get, you're doing them more of a disservice by not having them invest in it, because many of them don't appreciate it. I had to think to myself, I had to think back on the experiences that I've had of trying to help people, and then of only having people invest a little bit of money because I wanted to help them. Of course, I got to help myself as well. I got a family to feed. So me just giving away stuff, I still give away a lot of free information and knowledge, to help people. But for me to spend time to help them and help them get the results that they're looking for, it's necessary to make that investment. And when I didn't have them make that investment, people stopped doing what I told them to do. They didn't follow the things that I showed them how to do. And that's the case, even going back to the network marketing thing. When you look at such a minimal investment of $200 or $300 or $400, $500, maybe that's a major amount of money to some people, right? But if people don't find a way or make a way to make that investment in themselves, it's unfortunate that many of those folks would never appreciate the value of what they're missing out on, right? And I had to really dig deep into myself to, start increasing the investment, because I was like, wait a minute. But I had to realize, like, wait a minute, I am showing people how to get started and make millions and millions of dollars. I made that investment in Carlton Sheets 23 years ago. Actually, probably 24 years ago. Because I studied it for almost a year and a half before I got started. But I made that investment 24 years ago. It was probably because I bought the course twice. I probably spent about $500, $600 on that course. But just the opening of my mind from that to now, has been millions and millions of dollars in transactions. And, even the network marketing from that $250 2 or 3 times investment helped me open my mind in so many different ways that I realized that the value of what I invested in will far surpass the cost. Right. So that's what I help people understand is invest in yourself. Get over what you feel the amount is, right? And I say that in as much as a humble way as I possibly can. Get over what you feel the amount is, because once you make the investment, or the more painful the investment, we'll call it, the more you will do what you can to make that investment back.
Wow.
And I've had to make some painful investments when I didn't invest in the proper knowledge, the proper education, the proper mentorship. When I didn't invest in those things, thinking that I was going to save some money, it ended up costing me 10 times more in the long run. Because like I said in the beginning, I didn't have proper mentorship. I didn't have proper, accountability. I didn't have those proper things in the beginning. So I lost hundreds and hundreds, maybe even millions of dollars in possibilities. Think about that time where I was talking about I had over $250,000 in the bank and I didn't invest $500 in those houses that I could have purchased. If I had somebody then to say, hey, stupid, I'll say it because I felt like I was stupid. Nobody else, don't take it personal. I felt like I was stupid. If I had somebody would have just said, hey, listen, take that money and buy just 10 of these houses. That's $5,000. If something goes wrong, you still got over $250,000 in the bank. But I didn't have anybody to speak that knowledge or speak that information into my ear, or I didn't invest in someone to do that. So I didn't have it. So now those opportunities and the potential income that I could potentially be making, those $500 houses are like $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 now, right? So that missed opportunity, because I missed the opportunity to invest in that education or the knowledge, is what I tell people. Don't miss that opportunity, because you never know. If you apply what you learn, that's the biggest thing. You can't just be an information junkie. You have to apply what you're learning, apply what you invest in learning. And then you will see the rewards of what you eventually get. Even if it's just the change in experience, the change in mindset, it's worth it.
Right. Wow.
I think I answered the question. Hopefully I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did. You did. You definitely answered the question. So in terms of your course, if someone was to purchase your course, give us a couple of things that they would learn.
First thing is mindset shift. That's the first thing. I always thought that what I realized that a mindset shift is the biggest thing that people need. Everything beyond that, once they change the way that they believe how things work, then everything else can potentially fall in place. I've always heard it said this way: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will soon change. Many people, like I did, don't believe that, they hear it over and over again. People are making millions of dollars in real estate. But when they step up to the plate, they're like, oh, no, I can't do that. Or maybe I can. No, you can't say maybe. You got to believe with everything in you that it's possible for you. But you also got to believe that you got to put the work in. So when I show them how to develop a new mindset, I show them how to put systems in place, right? That's the biggest issue that a lot of us have. Like when I was doing real estate before, I made a ton of money, but I had no system. It was wake up and go. Wake up and go. And, I made a lot of money, but it was because of the times. Had the times been anything like they are now, things are a little bit easier, but I didn't need a system then. My system was make money. But if I had a system, I would have kept a lot of the money that I made. Right. So that's the other thing. I showed them how to do systems. I showed them how to automate as much of their process as they possibly can. Like, for example, it's people making calls for me and for houses right now. And, maybe we'll get a deal, maybe we won't, but I don't have to spend that time doing it. Right. I do it anyway, because it's just what I like to do. Call me crazy. Sometimes I like making cold calls. I don't like it, but sometimes I like it. But I showed them how to automate the process. I showed them how to have other people do most of the heavy lifting. And in many cases, most of my students, all they have to do is collect the check.
Hey, Glenn, hold on. All right.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So, man, that's awesome. They learn some good, they get some good basics in the beginning of, in your course. So if someone wanted more information on the course that you offer, how can they get in contact with you?
Great question. I'm glad you asked that. What I'm going to do for your guest or for your viewers, as a thank you for the opportunity of being on your show, is I'm going to give your viewers my ebook for free. It's currently being sold on my site right now for $14.99, and I'm told that price is going to increase because now it's going to be going over to Amazon. But what I'll do is I'll give it to your guests for free. All they have to do is text their name and email address to 678-828-2932. Text their name and email address to 678-828-2932. If you can also put, hopefully we can get everybody to follow these instructions. Also put in there Proverbs,
real estate Proverbs podcast.
If you put real estate Proverbs, or that's too much for you to text, just put Proverbs in the link. That way, we know that you were able to come through and get that text, and then we'll send you a free copy of the ebook. If you text your name, email address, and Proverbs to 678-828-2932, and we'll make sure you get a free copy of the ebook.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So look, man, this has been, in the makings for a while, just coordinating our schedules. For someone who wants to get in contact with you, how can they reach out to you on social media?
Good question. They can get to me on social media. I'm on Instagram at Real Life Real Estate Investing, or Instagram also at Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, Mr. Dollar Out of a Dime, or on Facebook. I'm on Facebook at Glen E. Glasper. So that's Facebook and Instagram. You can get me either way.
Okay, awesome, man. I appreciate your time. Thanks for hopping on with me, man. Hopefully we have a part 2. Guys, go send your information, text your information to get the free ebook. I know it's packed full of gems and things to help you along your real estate career. I'm actually going to send my information so I can get a free copy.
Definitely. We'll make sure you get it.
But thanks for listening to the Real Estate Proverbs podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
If you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, share, and comment. And I'm your host, Kevin Jefferson. Have a great day.